Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I am your host and CEO of VitalityOET. We are a women's nutrition, health, and fitness company that focuses predominantly on women's hormones, particularly as they start going through perimenopause and onwards. We know that you start experiencing so many changes in this time of your life, whether it be hot flashes, night sweats, irritability, brain fog, or weight gain around the middle that seems to have come out of absolutely nowhere despite you not changing anything. So you go back to those tried and true methods of cutting calories, cutting carbs, doing a bunch of cardio, yet nothing seems to be working. You're putting in all this effort and you actually start seeing changes in the opposite direction than what you want. But we know now that your body is inherently different now that you've gone through these hormonal changes. So our mission here at Vitality is to really help you understand how your body changes in this time of your life, so you can reach those health and fitness goals, feel in control and at home in your body again, live a life full of vitality, and really understand how to take care of this new body of yours. So today's topic, I want to talk about how to eat in order to build muscle in menopause. And this is something that I talk about lots because everyone talks about wanting to, lose weight. They want to look more fit. They want to look more toned. But what does that body type actually need? What is that actually comprised of? Because a lot of the time we think we just want a smaller number on the scale. We want a smaller body. However, a lot of women, what they're actually looking for is they want to have some muscle tone. They want to, show some definition in their body somewhere. They don't just want to be a smaller version. They want to look fit and toned. And that requires having muscle mass. So we're actually going to be changing your body composition where we want to put on muscle mass. We want to have a higher lean body fat body percentage. So we're talking about more muscle mass. We want denser and better bones, that kind of stuff. We want to decrease our body fat percentage. So the amount of fat mass you have on your body. We don't want to be just a smaller version of ourselves, lose some muscle and actually have a higher body fat percentage. This is what we see a lot of women going through when they are going on these extreme diets and doing a bunch of cardio and stuff like that. So we need to understand, how do we build and maintain muscle mass so you can look that way? That's really important. So first of all, why do you even want muscle mass aside from looking good? Right? We all have this aesthetic goal, but I don't think people realize how important muscle mass actually is, especially once you're in perimenopause and menopause. So first of all, the more muscle you have, the faster your metabolism. So this means the more muscle you have on your body, the more calories your body will burn at any given point during exercise, at rest. So let's say you add, I'm just going to give you random hypothetical numbers. Let's say to just lay there, sleeping all day, your body burns about 1,500 calories. That's actually pretty average for a lot of people. Okay. This is just the calories your body uses to, keep you alive, your heart pumping, your blood flowing, your nervous system going, hormone production, all those things. But let's say we add 10, 15 pounds of muscle to your body, which yes, it's going to make the scale go up, right? But now that means that just laying there doing nothing, maybe now your body's burning 1,700 calories instead of 1,500 calories. That's pretty exciting. So you can imagine if your body already burns more calories at rest, it's going to make it easier to lose weight, right? The other thing with muscle mass is that it improves your insulin sensitivity. So it helps with blood sugar control, which is huge because we know that as we go through perimenopause and menopause, we have a decreased ability to control our blood sugars when estrogen goes down. So it's one of the roles that it plays in our body. So the more muscle you have, the more you are better equipped to handle these changes in blood sugar, and you're not going to see as much of a issue with your A1C and your fasting glucose levels, right? It's going to help reduce your risk of falls and fractures, which is huge because we know that during perimenopause and menopause, when estrogen goes down, we are going to see that our bone density decreases. We're at a higher risk of developing osteoporosis and osteopenia, which increases our risk of falls and fractures. And we know, for example, if you break a hip, that can decrease your life expectancy on average about 7 years, which is crazy. So we want to make sure that we are keeping those bones nice and healthy. And by doing the resistance training exercise, by maintaining muscle mass, and then being strong and having good balance, that's going to reduce reduce those risks of seeing those fractures and seeing your bone density decline. And then, of course, muscle in general is just a really good marker of improving your mortality risk. There are so many benefits to having muscle. And unfortunately, during perimenopause and menopause and the years that follow when our estrogen levels are lower, we have a much harder time being able to build and maintain muscle mass because estrogen is a muscle building hormone. So now we're leaning towards this, okay, our signal to build muscle isn't as good. And this is something that we really want to address. So let's talk a little bit about protein and how this stuff all works, because there's things that build muscle, there's things that break down muscle. And obviously, if we want to build and maintain muscle, we need to have a higher muscle building side of the equation than a muscle breakdown side of the equation. So I want to give you a little bit of background science stuff here because this will help things just make better sense for you. So protein is broken down into amino acids. These are the things that it's broken down to, just like carbs is broken down to glucose. We see that protein is going to be broken down into amino acids. These are the building blocks of protein, okay? And this is what our body can use. We get it from the foods that we ingest. However, if we're not getting enough through our food, our body needs to find that elsewhere. And you know where it finds it from? Breaking down our own protein, aka muscle, which we do not want. Because muscle is so precious. It makes us look fit. It helps us with our insulin sensitivity. It helps us prevent risks of fall and fracture. We don't want to see ourselves lose our muscle mass. We want to preserve as much as possible. And when estrogen goes down, it becomes harder to do that already. So we want to make sure that we're getting enough protein and amino acids on a regular basis where our body doesn't have to break ourselves down in order to meet the needs. And it might be wild to kind of think about it this way, but muscle is constantly being broken down and rebuilt in our body all day, every day. It's this cycle. So in order to build more muscle or maintain what we have, we need to have something called muscle protein synthesis, which is muscle building. We need more of that happening than that muscle protein breakdown, which is the breaking down of muscle. Okay, so that makes sense. We want to have more of a muscle building signal than muscle breakdown. We have to balance those out and make sure it's in favor of muscle building. I hope that makes sense. So now here are some things to note on muscle breakdown, which is really important. Muscle breakdown happens while we are in a fasted state. Okay, pause for dramatic effect. In a fasted state, you are not getting amino acids from food. This means your body is going to break down your muscle in order to get amino acids to meet the needs that it needs. Okay, so this fasted state can be overnight when we're sleeping. Obviously, we're not eating, right? At least I hope not. Or when there are no amino acids available between our meals. So this is where we're not getting enough protein in between our meals. Oh gosh, I thought I was going to sneeze. We're good. Okay, so that's number one. Muscle protein breakdown happens when we are in a fasted state. If you are trying to put on muscle mass and you are purposely fasting more than just overnight, you are increasing the muscle breakdown side of that equation, making it harder for you to build and maintain muscle mass. So that should send off some light bulbs for you. Number two, muscle is broken down during exercise. However, post-exercise, we see enhanced muscle protein synthesis, which is your muscle building signal. So we need to do the right kind of workout that's going to maximize that signal post-workout to balance that out, right? We want to have as big of a muscle building signal as possible. Okay, so this is where doing the right kind of exercise and recovery is important, so we're not having more muscle breakdown than muscle building. There's a whole science to this. This is why we encourage like proper structure of workouts and days per week and rest periods and rest days. And if you're working out 3 days a week, it's more full body versus 4 days a week, you do an upper lower body split. Like there is so much science backing behind this, you guys. There is a reason programs are programmed the way they are and why a lot of them look super similar, because this is the science behind it. This is how it works. Okay. Number three, food intake slows down muscle protein breakdown and helps with muscle building. So therefore, if you are not eating enough food, you are increasing the muscle breakdown side of that equation. And if you aren't eating enough, how do you expect to build muscle when you aren't getting that muscle building signal, right? You are not dampening that breakdown signal. And then number 4, carbohydrates are muscle sparing. So our body is always going to want to use carbohydrates first. If you are not eating enough carbohydrates, your body will break down muscle for energy. So if you are fasting, okay, if you're not eating enough food and you're not eating enough carbs, those 3 things alone amplify that muscle breakdown signal. And you're not going to see as much muscle building no matter how hard you are working out in the gym. Let me say that again. If you are fasting, if you are not eating enough food, if you are not eating enough protein, and you are not eating enough carbs, you are going to see the muscle breakdown side of the equation be greater than the muscle building side of the equation. And therefore, no matter how hard you work in the gym, you will not see improvements in your body composition. You are just breaking down muscle. You are not going to look fit and toned. You become maybe a smaller version of yourself, but your body fat percentage is probably going to go up. And I doubt that's why you're busting your butt in the gym, right? This is why eating enough food, particularly our protein and our carbs, and doing the right type of strength training that sends that muscle building signal is so freaking crucial when it comes to putting on and maintaining muscle, so that we don't break down more muscle than we are building. Because otherwise you will never look the way that you want. I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to really simplify some pretty complicated things. So, and that's just in the everyday person. That has nothing to do with perimenopause and menopause. Now, when we toss in these hormonal changes, we are in a huge disadvantage because when estrogen drops, we have a significantly harder time building and maintaining muscle because one of estrogen's main roles is to build and promote muscle protein synthesis. It helps promote and increase that muscle building signal. And then we know that when we are in a stress state, so we have our high cortisol from being stressed out from work and go, and we're skipping our meals and we're not sleeping enough and all of those things, cortisol will send a signal to your body to go to the muscle, break it down into amino acids, take it to your liver. Your liver then turns it into sugar, dumps it into your bloodstream for usable energy. Okay? We know that this is not good. So low estrogen, we see a decrease in that muscle building signal. High stress and cortisol, we see an increase in muscle breakdown. We know that when estrogen goes down, estrogen really helps buffer cortisol. So before we wouldn't see cortisol go up until we hit a 9 out of 10 on the stress scale. Now, when estrogen is down, it only takes a 5 out of 10. And now cortisol goes up. So now it takes a lot less for that muscle breakdown to start happening. Okay? So we need to focus so much in perimenopause and menopause on really, really, really working hard on increasing that muscle building signal and decreasing that muscle breakdown signal. And when we go through perimenopause and menopause and estrogen goes down, that muscle building signal decreases and that muscle breakdown signal goes up. And this is where we start seeing a lot of changes. And this is why we need to counteract these changes that are happening internally with proper nutrition and proper training. So what does this look like? Because now you guys are probably like, okay, this makes sense. So everything that I've done to try and look more fit and toned has actually broken down more muscle, especially now that I've gone through perimenopause and menopause. Crap, right? So now what do I do? Well, number 1, you're gonna need some protein and quite a bit of it. Take your weight in pounds and times it by 0.8. Okay, this is how much protein you should be having in a day. And we typically like to max women out around 150 grams of protein because then it gets very tough to digest. And we find that women start reaching for a lot of artificial type proteins. So We want to make sure that most of the protein is coming from whole foods. So not quote unquote health foods like, the powders, the bars, the protein Pop-Tarts, the protein cookies, the protein brownies, right? Like we want to get most of our protein from whole foods. And we want to aim for 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal. So with muscle protein synthesis, that building of muscle, it slows down once protein is digested. So 3 to 4 hours after our meal of protein, we see that muscle building signal goes down. It's not as strong. Okay. So that means that we need to have some protein every 3 to 4 hours so that we have those amino acids in our digestive system to decrease that muscle breakdown signal and increase the muscle building signal. Okay. So we need to eat protein regularly throughout our days. This is why 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal is so important, and having some protein in your snacks. So huge. Okay, we want to really focus on balancing the odds in your favor for muscle building as opposed to muscle breakdown. Okay, hope that makes sense. Number 2, the only way to build muscle is through legitimate strength training. The only way. If you are not strength training, you will not build muscle. Period. End of story. This is science. This has been shown everywhere, including with perimenopause and menopause. You need to be adequately sending the signal to your body that, hey, we need to build muscle. So when you're doing cardio, your body doesn't need to maintain muscle mass for that. Nope. If you're doing the HIIT workouts, your body really doesn't need to maintain much muscle mass for that, let alone build. The boot camps, the Orange Theories, the F45s, that's not going to stimulate muscle growth. The way that we grow muscle is week per week, we are challenging our muscles to get stronger. And what this looks like is by following a progressive overload training program. So what this looks like is you might have the same program for 3 to 6 to 8 weeks, okay? Your workouts are going to be the same. Let's say you're doing 3 days a week, full body, okay? You got day 1, day 2, day 3, they all look a little bit different, but you do that program for 4 to 8 weeks. And during that time, you are focusing on getting stronger and making the workouts more challenging by slowing down the movements, by squeezing the muscle, by focusing on the tension in that area, moving with purpose. What is the intention behind the exercise? And feel that. And then from week to week, maybe you're adding a repetition. Maybe you're slowing down the movement a little bit more. Maybe you are pausing at the bottom. You are increasing your weight week to week. And this tells your body like, hey, Steph keeps trying to do this stupid bicep curl. Last week she did 10 reps of 10 pounds. This week she's doing let's say 10 reps of 12 pounds. And then the next week it's 12 reps at 12 pounds. And so you can see week to week, she seems to have this need to lift heavier. So we need to change and adapt to be able to do that thing. This is how survival and adaptation and physiology and everything works in our body. So then our body wants to get better at that thing. And how does it do that? It makes you stronger by building muscle mass. Okay, so you need that in order to be able to grow muscle. Otherwise, it will not happen. Okay, so you need to be doing legitimate strength training. That is the only way to build muscle. And then you have to be eating enough protein and doing enough recovery to balance out the muscle building signal with the muscle breakdown signal. Okay. So how do we kind of do this? You do your workout, right? Next is number 3, post-workout nutrition. We have a guide on this. If you want it, just message me on social media. We will send it your way with all the things of pre and post-workout nutrition because it's very important. So I will send it to you. But remember how I said that, so post-workout, I said way back in the beginning, you're going to have a muscle building signal, right? During workout, you break down muscle. Post-workout, you have this signal of hey, we need to build muscle because that was hard and we want to make sure it's easier for next time. So we need to build more muscle to make us stronger. Okay. This only happens with progressive overload training. Okay. But we need to make sure that we counteract the breakdown that happens during exercise, especially once you're in perimenopause and menopause, because it's a lot easier to lose muscle. So eating post-workout, in particularly protein and carbohydrates, is incredibly important. Okay, so, and this is a really great part, is like people are scared to eat carbohydrates. Remember, the more carbs you have, it decreases the risk of your body breaking down muscle for energy. And then protein will help bring up that muscle building signal, right? So carbs bring down the breakdown so that doesn't happen. And then protein really pushes that protein building signal. So the great thing about post-workout is that we activate these GLUT4 doggy doors in our cells, that sugar can easily go into the muscle cells to replenish those stores, to provide you with energy for later. And we don't need to use insulin for it. So you can actually eat carbohydrates post-workout without needing to use insulin. So we're not seeing that insulin rise. So that helps actually counteract insulin resistance. It can help with our insulin sensitivity, which is so good. So you shouldn't be afraid to eat carbohydrates post-workout. Carbs are going to be stored in your muscles, which during exercise, your muscle breaks down and uses for energy first. 80% of energy production in your body for everyday function and exercise comes from glycogen breakdown. 80% of the energy produced in your body to function properly comes from glycogen breakdown, aka carbs. 80%. 80% comes from carbs, not protein, not fat. And when we eat carbs and are actually, all our food, insulin goes up and blunts protein breakdown, which is really good. So this is why carbs are considered muscle sparing, because it's not going to allow for our muscle breakdown for energy. Because we want to use, our body loves to use carbs for energy, 80%. 80%, you guys, that is so much. So think about if you're, even just your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, what your body burns if you were just sleeping all day. Typically it's like, 1,400, 1,500, somewhere around there. Like just that alone, 80% of those calories burned is coming from glycogen stores, from carbohydrates, carbs. That way your body doesn't need to break down muscle for energy. So carbs are going to help you so much here. Eating carbs post-workout is going to replenish those stores that are in our muscle so that our body can utilize that throughout the day. This is good. We want carbohydrates, okay? Super important. So with that, with proper resistance training, your body is going to stimulate protein synthesis, so muscle building, for up to 48 hours post-workout with resistance training, which is awesome. That's 2 days where you have an elevation in that muscle building signal. Fantastic. This is why you don't have to work out every day, because that muscle building signal is elevated for 2 days post. This is why 3 days a week is great. This is fantastic news. You don't have to go work out every day. Amazing. That should be relief and freedom on your part if you're not someone who enjoys exercise all the time. That's fantastic. Okay? And because you send that muscle building signal again. So if you work out, let's say Monday, muscle signal for building is elevated post-workout Monday, all day Tuesday, and then part of Wednesday. Wednesday you work out again, muscle building signal will then go up again, right? So you're constantly sending this signal. This is why we program workouts in a certain way, because we want to maximize and hit you at that spot before that muscle building signal comes back down. So this is why if you're working out 3 days a week, full body is fantastic. It's so good, you guys. If you are doing 4 days a week, you would do upper body, lower body, lower body, because with a break in between, obviously, because again, you have the lower body has that muscle building signal. It's going to be taking time to recover, right? So you can hit it again where your body's actually recovered, and we can maximize that muscle building signal, which is so amazing. So follow programs the way they're written. They're written away like that way for a reason. There is science behind it. This is so well shown in literature, you guys. So don't fight us on it. Okay. But you do need to realize that post-workout for 24 hours, we are going to be fighting a muscle breakdown signal. So 24 hours post-workout, you have muscle building and muscle breakdown signal. So we want to try and really decrease that muscle breakdown signal, but then the day after that, our muscle building signal is going to be higher. So this is why the 24 hours post-workout is so important. And a lot of people are not hungry after they work out because that stress response dampens their appetite. But if you're not eating, you're going to see more on that muscle breakdown signal side than the muscle building side. So the 24 hours after you work out is really important because we want to really decrease muscle breakdown and increase muscle building. Okay, so 24 hours post, very important. The big emphasis here is you need both adequate calorie intake, enough carbohydrates, enough protein, pre and post workout food, and a good workout program where you're actually working on getting stronger week to week to actually get results. You will not see muscle growth if you are missing any pieces. Okay, especially in perimenopause, because our body already favors that muscle breakdown signal. So if you are serious about seeing changes in your body composition and building muscle, those things matter. Okay, you need enough calories, enough carbs, enough protein, pre and post workout nutrition, and a good workout program. Okay, this is so monumental. If you don't have those 5 things, good luck. That's like trying to drive somewhere with a donut tire. You got 4 tires, one has a donut. You can't go as fast, right? Because it's not efficient, right? You're going to wear out one part more than the other. It's the same thing here. You can't do it. So if you are not eating enough or maybe you're in a calorie deficit, your body is going to favor muscle breakdown over building. No matter what, no questions asked. So signs that you're not actually eating enough are that you feel like crap after a workout. You can't recover. You are really sore. Just because you're sore after a workout doesn't mean it was effective. Typically, it means it was too much that your body could handle, okay? You feel tired a lot. Your workout motivation is now gone. It used to be something you loved. Now you're like, meh, don't want to do it anymore. Your hormonal symptoms are not good. You're really struggling there. And your mood and sleep are not good. These are all signs that you are not eating enough. And like muscle building is honestly out of the question. It's not going to happen. And that's just the reality of the fact. And it sucks. It sucks to hear it, but you need to know that way you can make the appropriate adjustments. Okay. If you are in maintenance calories, you're probably also going to struggle to put on muscle mass, especially if you're in perimenopause and menopause, simply because it's just not enough food to counteract the muscle breakdown signal that we're experiencing in this time in our life. Okay. Resistance training is obviously going to help you maintain, but you're not going to get as big results from your workout because the scale of muscle building to muscle breakdown just simply isn't in your favor enough. Okay. And everyone's like, well, you can lose fat and build muscle. That's been debunked by some of the best physiologists in the world. And we see this even in men. And we know men have a much easier time building and maintaining muscle than women, especially in perimenopause and menopause. The people who can build muscle and lose fat at the same time are brand new exercisers and those who are quite young with healthy hormonal profiles. So we're talking people in their 20s. Okay. Once we're going through these hormonal changes, to lose fat and gain muscle at the same time I don't want to say it's impossible because there's going to be some anomalies, but it is so freaking rare. It's not very likely. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Okay. It's just not in your favor. Eating in a surplus, which I know sounds freaking terrifying because we're already telling you, hey, you need to eat more just to get healthy, but then you want to put on muscle and then you got to eat a little bit more above that. It's terrifying. And I understand that. It's so scary, but it is the best and most effective way to see improvements from your workout because it sucks to feel like you're working out and pushing and not getting anything out of it, right? That sucks. It sucks. So the first question you're probably asking is, but won't I get fat? Won't I get fat if I go into a surplus and I'm resistance training? Some body fat can be expected. I'm going to be honest, but it shouldn't be excessive. The best way to minimize fat gain while doing this is by eating consistent calories. So remember, we're not doing 2,200 calories one day and then 1,800 the next. We want consistency to take as much stress off the system as possible. Okay. So eating consistent calories and working out consistently in a way that, builds muscle. So following a program and actually following it, making sure you're recovering properly, eating 80% whole foods, because you're in a surplus does not give you a freebie to have ice cream every single day, right? We need to be aware of that. But remember that in the pursuit of muscle gain, you're not going to be super lean. You're not. It's not realistic. You're not going to be at your peak aesthetic goal when you are chasing muscle gain. Okay? But if you want to look a certain way down the road, you need to have adequate muscle to have an improved metabolism and improve your blood sugars and improve your hormone profile, so that when you go into a fat loss phase and you lose fat, you have muscle to show underneath. So you have to think about long run, what does the body look like that you want? It probably has way more muscle than you think it does and more muscle than you have. And that's step number one. Okay? Because it sucks to feel like you get there and you're good and then you cut weight and you're like, I just look like a smaller version of myself. I look quote unquote skinny fat. There's no tone. There's no musculature there, right? You need to focus on building muscle appropriately first. And a lot of the time you're going to have to go into a surplus, which I know is terrifying, but it will make such a huge difference in the long run. And remember, this is not a quick thing. You don't build muscle in 4 weeks, okay? Not 6 weeks, not 8 weeks. Building muscle takes time and consistency in the gym and with your nutrition. Okay, I know it sounds simple, but simple does not mean easy. Okay, it's still going to be challenging. There are going to be days that you don't want to do it. However, you need to acknowledge that, yes, it's simple, it's going to be challenging, and it's going to be so much easier to quit. But you have to decide, is that really what you want? Are you willing to make sacrifices for that thing? And if you're not, that's okay. But then you have to be okay and adjust your expectations as to what that body's going to look like in the end. And that's completely up to you. I don't care. I want to help you get to your goal, but you have to decide what's worth it. And that's really what it comes down to. Some other benefits of protein, because we've been talking a lot about it because it is so important, is that you're going to burn more calories during digestion. So protein, you burn 20 to 30% of the calories that you consume during digestion because it's harder to break down. So let's say you eat 100 calories of protein, you're burning 20 to 30 calories. Whereas with fat and carbs, it would only be 10 to 15 calories. So awesome pro tip of protein. It's also going to be more satiating. So you're going to be more full. You're not going to get as hungry as much. Okay. You're going to be less likely to have protein be stored as fat intake as long as it's not super high above maintenance. Your body typically doesn't want to store protein as fat. Okay. It's not what it naturally wants to do. And it also helps prevent your blood sugar spikes because it gets digested more slowly and it helps the emptying of your stomach go more slowly as well. So you're not seeing blood sugar spikes and drop. So it's really great for balancing our blood sugars when estrogen goes down and we have a harder time with that. So here's a little summary for you guys about how to actually build muscle in menopause. Okay, because I know we went through a lot of stuff. Number 1, eating enough protein. 0.8 grams per pound of body weight or a max of 150. And you want to increase slowly, otherwise you'll be constipated and bloated. Number 2, you want to have protein, 20 to 30 grams per meal, and eat it regularly throughout your day because then we see that protein muscle breakdown starts to increase 3 to 4 hours after protein has been consumed. Okay, without protein in your body is going to break down your muscle instead and lead to muscle loss, which is not why you're working so hard. Number 3, eat enough calories. Remember, the best way to build muscle is to eat in a surplus. Okay, if you need help figuring out what that looks like, message me, book a consultation call. We will calculate your calories for free to help you figure out where you are right now, the mistakes that we're making, how can we improve those, and the goal is to get you to that physique. Okay. Number 4, eat your carbs, mostly from whole foods. Okay. So we're talking our potatoes and our rice and our veggies and our fruit, right? Getting enough carbohydrates, get those starchy carbs at every single meal to replenish those energy stores in our muscle to prevent unnecessary muscle breakdown. Remember, our body prefers to use carbohydrates and glycogen as energy. If we don't have enough, your body will break down your muscle. And then number 5, Proper resistance training is 100% necessary. Otherwise, you will literally not send any sort of muscle building signal to your body. There is no reason for your body to put on muscle mass, so it just won't. That's really what it comes down to. And I know lifting weights can seem kind of scary or intimidating, or you don't enjoy it. Just try. Small baby steps. It doesn't have to be crazy monumental things. But like, if you don't know if you're working out properly, message me. I'm always happy to help you troubleshoot and what you can adjust and how you can change things and what it would look like. I do this for women all the time. So just message me. But those are the big things. Eat enough food, eat enough calories, eat enough carbs, eat enough protein throughout your day, 20 to 30 grams at every meal. Make sure you're having protein every 3 to 4 hours in some way, shape, or form. Doing proper resistance training. You need this during perimenopause and menopause, because otherwise the muscle breakdown signal is so much higher than the muscle building signal. You will not achieve the results that you are looking for. That's it. Like, it's super blunt. And I know it sucks to hear because we all want to know like some fancy cool way of how to do things, but this is science. This has been shown over and over and over again. And we're seeing this in all groups of people. And then we know in perimenopause and menopause with hormones, we're at a disadvantage. So this is not really negotiable. And if you're not willing to do those things, that's okay. But then you have to be okay with adjusting your expectations as to what things will really look like in the end. I hope this was helpful. Please share this with everyone. If you want that pre and post workout nutrition guide, just message me on socials. We will send that over to you. No issues. Thank you so much for listening. Share this with your friends, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.